Hello, Grant. Welcome.
Hey Anna, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Well, welcome to VirtualCon, our eighth annual event, VirtualCon, and we are here, everybody, with Grant Wise of Metamovers for marketing real estate and growing communities in the Metaverse.
Awesome.
So, just so you know, we're on live right now on two Metaverse platforms. We're in Otherverse Classic and Xeon Otherverse Beta. And we're also streaming live to YouTube and Twitch. So we're everywhere. And I've got my eyes on everything right now. So I'm going to try my best to keep up with our conversation and look at all three platforms at once. So I'm probably going to go off screen so I can do that so everyone's not going to see me going all crazy here. But why don't we get started? I'm going to just have you introduce yourself to everybody listening right now.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. I really appreciate it. My name is Grant Wise. I am the founder of a platform called Metamovers, and we are a marketplace for real estate, both virtual in the metaverse and real world assets. And we've been around for a couple of years. We've developed some amazing partnerships, especially with platforms like Otherverse, and are very excited to help people understand how to continue to make moves in the metaverse. It's been a fun journey the last couple of years, a lot of work, a lot of patience as things have developed in this space. But very excited to be a part of the conversation and very appreciative that you guys have had me here today.
We are very excited that you're here as well. So tell us a little bit more about Metamovers. What is it?
Yeah, like I was saying, it's a platform that people can leverage to browse, buy, rent, sell, and invest in real estate. In the real world, obviously, real estate is one of the most significant asset classes in existence. And with the popularization of things like real world assets and tokenization and fractionalized investments, we've created a platform where people can go to learn more about the opportunities that exist both in the real world and then ultimately as well in the metaverse. In the metaverse specifically, it's so hard to know, what to buy, where to buy it, when to buy it, how to buy it. If you're making investments in virtual real estate, or if you're purchasing virtual real estate in these platforms, and then there's what to do after it. What's the utility of this virtual plot of land that I've just purchased? What am I going to do with it? How am I going to use it? Am I going to make money on it? Am I going to rent it? What's going to happen with this? And so we work really hard to help answer a lot of those questions for people so that within our marketplace, they feel educated on the decisions that they're making. They feel confident in the decisions that they're making, and ultimately can use our platform to learn, and then ultimately, do business with whichever metaverse platform or whichever RWA project that they feel like is the most valuable to them. In the metaverse, there are a lot of metaverses. And so it's, creating things like filters for interest, okay, which metaverse do I want to hang out in if this is my interest? And it's just those types of things. We want to educate people. We want to help people understand what to do. And we want to give them the ability to take action on our platform and, in platforms like Otherverse as an example, so that they can make those purchases with virtual real estate and they can develop them beyond that.
To me, this makes perfect sense. Being a longtime resident and
Yeah.
employee and user of the metaverse. But for those people who are new to this entire concept, I'm going to ask this question. How did you decide that I'm going to converge real estate with the blockchain? What made you decide one day that this was something that I was going to go ahead and pursue?
I think several years ago, I was looking at the landscape of crypto and blockchain and just everything going on in Web3. And I was always very intrigued by it, but I'm like, I just don't know how I fit here. Like, I don't know. I probably got brought in on a lot of the hype of the last bull run in the crypto cycle. And I was just very interested, and I'm an entrepreneur. So it's like, okay, where do I fit here? Is there a problem that I can solve? What can happen? And I've been in the real estate space now for over a decade, consulting companies from a marketing, advertising, sales standpoint. I've helped sell billions of dollars of real estate in most countries. And when I was looking at it, I thought, what? There there isn't really a way that people can buy virtual real estate. And that was a very, very trendy topic at the time when Metaverse blew up a few years ago as a topic, as a keyword, as a buzzword. I was like, there's really not a way for people to easily see what they should be doing. I mean, this is a industry that has less than 1% of global adoption. So there's a lot of demand. At the same time, there's not a lot of demand yet. And that said, I mean, Facebook changed their name to Meta, and the keyword took off, and there was some investment companies that we talked to that were getting literally 50,000 inquiries a day for people trying to find virtual real estate. How do you how do you handle that demand if you don't really have anything but a bunch of people sitting in a room trying to identify these things? And I said, I think I got it. I think what we could do is we could build the Zillow of the metaverse. We can create a platform where we aggregate all of the virtual real estate in existence across all channels, across all metaverses into one place where people could browse, buy, rent, sell, and invest. And that's what really became the exciting opportunity for me, was to create a platform that could do those things. And as we've grown, we've expanded our focus into real world assets, which is a very natural progression for me personally, as my entire working life has been spent in real estate marketing. And so doing it with real world assets has been fun. But that's how we got started. It was just curiosity. It was seeing a problem that existed and knowing that I had the ability to go out and develop a solution that would solve the problem. And that's how we got to where we are.
That is absolutely phenomenal to me. Incredibly groundbreaking. And it sounds like you've had some great success in that. Let me ask you this, with the success that you've had, what have been some of the challenges you've had? Because being first to market, being a groundbreaker, there's definitely some challenges that come along the way with breaking ground and being the first. So would you mind sharing what some of those might have been?
Yeah, I think that, a platform like yours probably can speak to a lot of the challenges that have been experienced in the metaverse space without question.
Oh, definitely.
I think one of the biggest questions I got asked in all the meetings and all the talks and all the interviews, and I've done a lot of them, is why on earth would anybody want to buy real estate in the metaverse? and it's a funny question, and it's a fair question. Why on earth would anybody want to do this? It doesn't make any sense, because we've been so programmed over time to spend our money on things that are real, and or at least the perceived value of it is real, et cetera. And so I think that was a big hill to climb. I don't think it was a big hill to climb. I think it was just talking with people. It was educating people. And that's where we're at with the metaverse. We're educating people. This is something you've got to be passionate about, because there's so many people that don't understand it, and so many people don't know what it is or how it works. And so there was a lot of education, a lot of talking, a lot of events, a lot of traveling, a lot of speaking. I think it's just the natural pains of developing technology. This is not an easy project. Developing complex technology takes the right people, it takes the right team, takes the right intellect, it takes the right understanding, it takes the willingness to go out there and build stuff and make mistakes and break it and build it all up again. And like I'm saying, you guys, I think, are very familiar with a lot of these challenges, but I think mainly it was adoption. And when we got started, the attention was on Metaverse. The impressions were insane. Just like the amount of people that were paying attention to what was going on in the Metaverse. Then when you start heading into the crypto winter and enter into a bear market, you see a lot of the impressionability drop quite significantly. A lot of the traffic drop quite significantly. And I think people ask me this question all the time, coming back to this, why would anybody want to buy virtual real estate? And in the real world, when you're going to buy a piece of real estate, one of the number one pieces of advice that you would probably get is location, location, location. Like, where you buy real estate matters. And if you buy something in the desert, it's probably not as valuable as if you were to buy something in downtown New York, right? There's differences. Well, what are the differences? Why is that value in the desert so much less than it is in this bustling city of, like New York? It's because of the traffic. It's because of how many people live there. It's because of the economic opportunity that exists within the confines of where you're buying or selling real estate. And so the location's everything. That same philosophy turned out to be true in the metaverse. Where you were buying your virtual real estate was critical. And then what are you doing with it? Are people coming and hanging out here? Are there eyeballs? Is there an economic opportunity in the back end of this? What is it? Can we develop a stadium? Can we host concert venues? Can we create a metaverse shop where people can actually come in and buy our products, which is what a lot of companies like Ralph Lauren and Rue 21 and Gucci and these companies were doing. And so I think that I'm not sure if I'm answering, 100% of your question, but a lot of the questions over the last several years have been related to value. Is this really worth it? Do I really want to have something like this? What am I going to do with it? How is this going to help me earn income? Or how is this going to be a good investment? And it's answering a lot of those questions that I don't even know if it's hard. It's just time consuming. It takes a lot of patience and passion and persistence. And when the markets go down, some of these things aren't as attractive. And when markets go up, some of these things are a little bit more attractive. The crypto market as a whole is just fascinating because it's not like any one country where if something's bad in the United States, sometimes that problem is limited to the United States. In crypto, if something's bad in the United States, it's bad everywhere. And so it's a fascinating world. But those are some of the chief challenges that I've seen in the last several years.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's adoption.
Yeah.
When I got my start in the metaverse space back in 2003, my God, it was trying to explain to people that this was more than just a video game. It was more than just, I'm not just playing a video game, Mom. I'm actually working somewhere. So no, it's just the education, the explanation and explanation and explanation and more explanation and then adoption. So I 100% understand.
And that's all. I mean, that's a lot about my background. When I got started in the real estate space in 2014, I had some business failures. I've never been employed, right? Since I was 19, I've been self-employed. I've always had my own companies and I owned a few of them, and some of them did well and some of them did not. But I really took off as an entrepreneur in the infopreneur space. Like I really kind of made a name for myself in the real estate space because I was selling information and educating people. So this is not something that I'm unfamiliar with, but you're right. It is definitely a constant pursuit. And we learn a lot of lessons in education related to advertising, which I think is very important. Sometimes it's good to educate people. But if you're in the educational phase of your offering, buckle up. Like it's going to take some time. It just really is. We don't always get the Facebook changing the name to Meta, which then explodes the category thing. Like that's maybe a once in a lifetime event that brought so much attention to the space. So the people that are still here are passionate about it. They really think that this is the future and they're invested in it. So it's definitely interesting.
Well, you mentioned that and from, reading about your background, do you find your success probably lies in your advertising and your strength behind that in your marketing, right? Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I know that you have like an advertising method that you teach people, and I don't know if you want to just discuss that a little bit or go into that a little bit, or
Yeah, I think it's my background and expertise is marketing, advertising, and sales in the real estate space, and I love marketing, advertising, and sales. It's all human behavior. That does not change, by the way, just because we're walking into the metaverse. As a matter of fact, it's still very, very important understanding human behavior. And when we look at advertising, let's tie this to somebody that's thinking about buying or selling a piece of virtual real estate. One of the number one most critical things to understand is the desire of the buyer. And I think that's so important as you look at people that are building metaverses, that are building communities inside of metaverses, that are trying to figure out how to get their piece of land to make money in the metaverse, or trying to figure out the utility, is always start with the core desire of the person that you want to market to. What does the person that you're going to market to want? It's the most critical thing to be able to answer. You can go buy 1,000 marketing books from all over the world, and they would probably all tell you the exact same thing. The first rule of marketing is to know who you are marketing to, because marketing is messaging. And if you don't know who you're talking to, You're not going to sell anything. It's very simple. So if you are listening to this and you're thinking about, okay, I've maybe interested in buying a piece of virtual land, or I'm interested in an acquisition inside of Otherverse, as an example, you need to be able to answer that question for yourself. What am I going to use it for, and who am I going to market this thing to, and what are they going to want to do with it? What is their core desire? I think these are some of the most critical questions to ask, um, specifically related to the metaverse. And when we're talking about monetizing things inside of the metaverse, who's going to buy this, or who's going to rent this, or who's going to do X, Y, Z, and what is their core desire? What's the number one thing that they want to do with this? I think this is why you see gaming is still such a significant factor in the metaverse, because the reality is that most people that want to hang out in the metaverse are playing games today. So it's just thinking through those things. If I could give any advice, that's what we have to think through every single day in the real world, in real estate. If you go to sell a piece of real property, what is the buyer going to want out of this piece of property? Is it to build a family? Is it, to have a shop? Is it to have an office? Is it to be a piece of dirt that's developed and sold to somebody else? So from a marketing, advertising, and sales standpoint, the first thing you've got to understand as you're taking these steps inside of this platform is just understanding, who am I doing this for? And why do they want it? What do they want out of it? What's their number one desire? It's the only thing that we can leverage in advertising is desire. And I think that's very critical to understand. Desire and necessity. A lot of people maybe don't need something in the metaverse right now. So you've definitely got to understand what their desires are, so that you can build movements, you can build products, you could build virtual monuments based off of those things.
From your experience and what you've seen so far, what are the biggest desires that people have had when it comes to property within the metaverse? What have you seen? What are the trends?
If you look back a couple of years ago, it was there was just a lot of hype. There were a lot of things taking place in the metaverse. I think a lot of people weren't, like the guy that bought the piece of virtual land next to Snoop for $500,000.
Yeah.
I don't know the guy, but he got, $5 million worth of free PR from the acquisition. So I don't know what he did with all of that attention, but I think it's, over the last several years, there's a lot of hype in this industry, not so much people that were super passionate about it like there are today, right? There's a lot of people that are really passionate about the space, which is why they're here. There was a lot of hype. There was a lot of attention. And I think these are really critical things, because when you look at, a couple of years ago when Metaverse was at its height, from an impressionability standpoint, meaning more people than ever were paying attention and hanging out and buying and doing stuff inside of a metaverse. It was the attention that was on these platforms that was super relevant, not necessarily to everyday individuals, but to advertisers. So I've made some great friends in this space that do business with people or companies like Nike and Gucci and Disney, and they were interested, and still are, in creating these experiences virtually so that they can aggregate more attention, which ultimately helps them sell more products and services. And so I think over the last several years, as that attention's gone up and down, if you see who's still playing in this space, when you're not looking at people that are passionate about it, it's people that are trying to figure out how to monetize it. Like, how can I create a new experience for my customers so that I can interact and engage with them in a new way, and ultimately drive sales for whatever product, service offering that I've got. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what I saw. There's a lot of companies.
It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you are working with real world assets now. And I'm assuming this is sort of in conjunction with what you're talking about with these companies. Could you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah, real world assets, I like a lot. Obviously, pretty much everything real estate I like a lot. Real world assets is a very unique opportunity to leverage the technology that's come about or been in development. If you look at like blockchain, through things like tokenization and fractionalization. So if you take my house at 123 Main Street, if I can tokenize this property, and then let's say I want to turn around and sell it as an investment, but I want to do it through fractionalized ownership. Let's say that the house is worth $500,000, and I'm going to go sell my house to a group of people, and I'm going to get 100 people to chip in five. I can't do the quick math there, but $5,000 or 1,000 people to chip in $500. I think that's really interesting to me because wealth in this society, thinking globally, has not always been so accessible. Normally if you want to start to build wealth, or the perception of it, you've got to be worth a lot of money. You've got to have worked much of your life, or you've gotten struck gold in business, or if you look at all of those things. And so the fractionalization of real estate, and offering that up to people in the crypto community, I think is so fascinating, because you can take people in third world countries that may be holding a little bit of crypto that can now buy real world assets through fractionalized ownership, and they can start to latch onto that dream of really building and accumulating wealth. It's so fascinating to me. So anyways, my focus in the RWA space is on the real estate side. There are so many other ways that that's being applied. You've got tokenization of art, of other asset classes, where people are able to buy using, either they're buying the whole thing, and they can do so now in crypto because of tokenization, or you look at how things are being offered up as fractionalized investments, which is really exciting. And this is another thing I like about it, is it's not new. There's the dark side of crypto and Web3 and blockchain, is how people have used these things to manipulate people and to rug pull people and to do all of the bad stuff that somebody like me just absolutely hates, and I think a lot of people do. But it's really, I think, giving hope to a lot of people that never thought they would be able to start building wealth. Where I was going that a second ago is, this isn't new. I mean, you can come into the United States as an example, and let's say there's an apartment complex. Well, you can buy that through syndication, but that's still, 40, 50, 60 investors coming together, putting in 50 grand here, 25 here, 100 grand there, 300,000 there, mainly an accredited investor opportunity. I just think that blockchain and tokenization and fractalization, they open up a whole new world of possibility for people to create wealth for themselves, especially those that are focused on doing it in the crypto space, by taking their crypto earnings and then pushing them into real world asset projects. That is very exciting to me. I think it's the future without question, at least for people that have an interest in that type of thing.
100%. What, in your opinion, would you say are the opportunities right now? Are there opportunities right now, or are there opportunities that people shouldn't be sitting on? Should they be going for?
I think that the opportunity exists in the mind right now. I'm not a fan of hype. I'm not a fan of short-term opportunities. I'm not a fan of, crazes. I'm a fan of thinking long term. And I think that right now that's our opportunity. 2 to 3 years ago, when we were in a bull market in the crypto space, and Metaverse was the narrative, it was easy to get bought in on this idea that, like, we're here, like we've arrived, this thing is just going to go. And it didn't end up being what happened. And the people that were thinking very short-sightedly got hurt. And the people that were thinking very long term, playing the long game in this thing for the long haul, are just fine. I think that the opportunities that we all have are to, readjust and recalibrate the way that we think about how we spend our time, our attention, our money, our energy. And if you want to hang out in this space, you got to be committed to the long term. I mean, really be committed to the long term, because it's going to take a long time before things like this really jump off. There's a lot of companies working on it. There's billions of dollars being put into R&D in the metaverse, and I think that it's going to happen. But I think that's the biggest opportunity. I know that's not like a oh yeah, go buy this meme coin or something like that, but I think it's the way that we actually need to really be thinking about this, is how can we play the long game and invest our time, attention, energy, money, resources, whatever, into things that we're actually passionate about, And how can we join communities that share those passions? And how can we all take our collective creativity and use it to build good in the world?
No, that's actually a great answer because it leads into a question that was asked, which is, with the development of metaverses and your experience with them, and with your experience with working at it, working with them, coming from sort of a real estate perspective, what do you see missing from them? So it's very interesting that you were talking about that. And this is sort of looking into the sort of long-term, longer, bigger picture. What do you see currently missing from metaverses, and what would you like to see? That's a question that actually came out of our audience.
I think it's attention. I mean, it's plain and simple. It's attention. That's the thing that's missing.
And
Um,
what do you mean by that exactly?
People. It's missing people. It's missing
Mm,
attention. It's missing traffic. It's missing people that actually want to wake up every day and spend 30 minutes to an hour in the metaverse, or like, some of the people on here that might be spending 8 to 12 hours in the metaverse. I don't know. But it's
right.
missing attention. I don't know that we lack the ability to creatively develop solutions, especially in real time, that solve problems for things like accessibility and, some of those types of things. I think it's honestly missing attention. You saw a couple of years ago when metaverse became such a dominant topic of conversation, we didn't lack the attention that was required to really start making revolutionary progress in the space. Now we do, because for whatever reason, a lot of the attention went away from metaverse. I think we're missing attention. We've got so many brilliant people that are passionate about this space, and there's so many incredible developers and visionaries. And I'm preaching to the choir here because you guys have teams full of them. But I think we're just still missing the attention. Like we're missing that the people that we need to continue to build community and to continue to develop and continue to make this space, what it really ultimately can be. And that's just stuff that will take time. We have to continue to evolve. This stuff has to become relevant. Or we have to have a reason. I go back to understanding the desire of your customer. I think, why do I need to hang out in the metaverse? What is it going to do for me? What do I gain from being a part of this? So I think we can start to answer some of those questions, which is what we as marketers, constantly work to do. You can start to bring attention to these platforms and these metaverses that I think ultimately solve a lot of problems that we've got today. We don't have a lot of people hanging out in these spaces. We do and we don't, not proportionally to what we could. I think when we can answer some of those questions, I think you'll start to see the volume of people hanging out in metaverses will grow. And when that happens, you'll start to see monetization come into these platforms in significant ways. You'll start to see money fly in these different platforms in ways that are really moving the needle for people. And I think that's what I'm really excited about.
Likewise, likewise. So you're working with multiple platforms, Otherverse being one of them.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you can talk about or tell people about what your plans are for what you're working with us? Is there anything that you can
Let's see.
talk
What can
about
I share
without
without maybe?
without putting you too much on the spot here?
Yeah, I got to sit down and take some tours into Otherverse. And after meeting with the team and meeting with the founders, the visionaries of it all, I mean, I think it's an incredible platform. I think what you guys have done from a programmatic standpoint, just the attention to detail, the experiences that you've worked to create, I think that they're so impressive. I know that we're kind of working behind the scenes talking about virtual real estate and what does that look like and what can we do and what could we offer to people that would give them an opportunity to buy their piece of this metaverse platform, and then what could they do with that? How could they take that and make it their own? Much like you go and you dream about buying a home, maybe in sorry, forgive me. Um, Much like you, it's my timer for my camera. I should have caught that. My bad.
All
Um,
good, all good.
Much like you go and you buy a piece of real estate and you figure out like how you're going to make it your own, what you're going to do with it. I think that if I could put out a call to action for everybody that's listening to this, the coolest thing I think about the Web3 space is that you've got the collective genius of millions of people that are working together to just build something. And I would invite everybody in this community that's paying attention to this to participate in that. What do you think that you could do with a piece of virtual real estate inside of Otherverse? How could you develop that? What could you turn that into? How could you bring more attention to the platform? How could we grow this community together? And what could that look like? I think those are some really cool questions to ask as a community that help us grow and develop whatever that turns into, whatever those answers are. There's so many cool use cases, I think, for Otherverse. And, I think it takes the collective genius of the community to come together and answer a lot of those questions. So I think you asked me to answer a question. I'm returning it back with a question to the community. Like, what do you want this to become? That's the cool part about what it is that we're building here. And so that's what we're talking about behind the scenes is, what does it look like to own a piece of Otherverse, and how could we use that? What could people do with it? Those are a lot of the questions that are being asked and answered.
And you hit the nail on the head there. I've been with Otherverse since pretty much the beginning, and it's always been about the community. It's always been about the community creating, and they've created amazing, wonderful, beautiful things over the last 20 years. Wow. So, and you completely hit it on the head there. It is the community. The community is what makes it great, and the community is what will continue to make it great. So
100%.
Yeah, excellent answer. So I know you have a token. Is that right?
Yes, we're still in our pre-launch phase of that token.
You're still in
yes,
the pre-launch phase. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Tell us a little bit about that token.
The Moves token is another thing that I'm obviously very excited about. I don't know if any of your community, I know some of your community has and invest in crypto. But the Moves
Definitely,
token was a natural part of what we were doing when we built Metamovers originally and today, both in the Metaverse and in real world assets. And I think it's a great opportunity for anybody that wants to be involved. It's unfortunately we've had to be patient and and releasing that token out into the world, and we're prepared to do that, assuming market conditions can change just a little bit, which is exciting. But our token is a utility token that people can utilize to unlock different services related to marketing their metaverse platforms or their real world asset projects. So it's kind of like a token that can be used to pay for services that we perform from a marketing standpoint. But then it also is an access token for people that maybe have an interest in the metaverse and they want to use what we're building to help people browse, buy, rent, sell, invest, or on the real world asset side, something that people can use to access information, to access data, to access opportunity. And it's also something that we use to create engagement. So part of what we're building in our platform is the ability to earn based off of engagement. So every time somebody logs in, they'll earn. Every time somebody shares something, they'll earn. Every time somebody makes an investment in a piece of real world asset or metaverse, they'll earn. So we've created some very unique use cases for our platform, and for our token, and we are beyond ready and excited to get that thing launched. So yes, we're still in our pre-launch phase. We've raised a substantial amount of money to launch the token. We still have a little bit of funding or allocation rather that we can issue to people that are interested in that. But yes, the token is an integral part of what we do, and we're really excited to get that out there into the marketplace and to continue to grow our community and our token in the crypto space.
So if people are interested in getting involved in that, how can they do that?
The best way probably would just be to hit us up on Twitter. Find us. We're at Making Metamoves. I don't know if you can put that in the chat or not, but at Making Metamoves. Hit us up on Twitter. You can send us a DM, and we'll certainly go through an exploratory conversation with any legitimate investors that are interested in our token.
I'll make sure I get that into the chat actually, and YouTube. We'll figure out how to get that up there. But definitely. So I've got some questions coming in from the audience, so I'm going to make sure I get those. Oh, yeah. There we go. At Making Meta Moves. I think everybody saw that. Hopefully it'll pop up on our stream. I definitely saw that. So, and if it doesn't, I'll make sure it gets into the YouTube chat before we're done here. So let me ask these questions before we run out of time. So a question for Grant here. Can traditional real estate professionals adapt to selling in the metaverse? Or do you think traditional real estate professionals can adapt to selling in the metaverse?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Part of what we were even building was a metaverse real estate association, actually, where we were going to help people get their virtual real estate license so that they could help facilitate the purchase of property in the metaverse. I think it's really important because the use case for blockchain, if you look at even the real world application of using blockchain in real estate in the real world, is something that is coming. Like, that's not going to slow down. It might take a little time, but tokenization of real world assets, and when you're talking about real estate in the real world, is a framework for selling houses in the traditional space that makes too much sense not to do it. And there's great companies that are pursuing this. You've got companies like Proppy and others that are actively pursuing transactions to take place in the blockchain. That just makes too much sense. So the reason I think it's such a good idea for people that are in the real world or that are real estate agents in the real world to learn this stuff and to adapt to this stuff and actually to practice this stuff inside of the metaverse is because, one, it kind of gamifies learning how to do this stuff in the real world. And it is the future without question. But then also, every reason to use a real estate agent in the real world applies in the metaverse. Why do people not buy or sell houses themselves? Well, there's 100+ things that a real estate agent does in the real world to help facilitate transactions on the buy and sell side. Guess what? All of those same rules apply in the metaverse. There's 100+ things in the metaverse that people just don't understand and they don't know how to do. And so the same reasons that you would use a real estate agent in the real world are the same reasons that you would use one in the metaverse. So I encourage everybody that I interact with, learn this stuff, gamify it for yourself, learn this stuff. Not only is it applicable, not only is there a use case to earn commission literally on what you do in the virtual world, but it directly applies to how the industry will continue to evolve in the real world. I think it's really important.
Exactly. The next question we have is, how do you attract buyers to virtual real estate in the metaverse?
You go back to desire. That's the question you got to be able to ask for yourself. Who is hanging out in the metaverse right now, and what do they want? If you can answer those two questions, you've kind of solved your own problem. I think a lot of people have to understand who their customer is and what they want. It's the only thing that's going to move the needle. Because if you think about it, not everybody wakes up every day and says, I need to go into the metaverse. Like, that's not like, it's just not something that is on everybody's mind, which is why even when we were at our peak, the adoption was less than 1%. 2 to 3 years ago. It's significantly less now. We have to be able to answer these questions. Why would somebody want to hang out in the metaverse? And if they were there, what would they want to do? And when you figure that out, that's the answer to your question.
And the next question I have from the audience is, what do you think it'll take for large scale mainstream adoption of the concept of virtual real estate?
I go back to my answer earlier in this. It's just attention. It's just attention.
Yeah.
It's attention. It's getting more people into the platform. Because when you look at advertising as an example, which is what really drove a lot of companies into the metaverse over the last several years, that relies on having a lot of attention. If we don't have people coming into the metaverse every day and hanging out, it's really hard to monetize what we're doing, like what we're building. And so I think that's what's got to happen is we've got to continue to drive adoption into this space. And the way that we do that is some of what I've talked about. It's figuring out, who's hanging out in the metaverse right now and what do they want? Why are they here? And you might be sitting there like, yeah, Grant, well, I'm just one person. I don't really know. I know, but Facebook, Apple, There's a long list of companies that are spending billions of dollars in R&D to try to answer this question, and you could help them by asking these questions on your own. Why are you here? What do you want from this? I would imagine that the same reasons that you're here are the same reasons that other people would want to be a part of it. And maybe you're just not talking about it enough. Because the more people that do, the more attention you will attract. And it's just this, what is that law? The what is it? 6 degrees of separation or 7 degrees of separation or something like that. Which is the idea that we're all basically connected to everybody else in the world through 6 or 7 other people that we know. Because if I know 6 people, they know 6 people, know 6 people, know 6 people. So I think, answer these questions for yourself and then start talking about it, inviting other people into it, experience it. That's the number one way that you can help this thing grow. Yeah.
Affiliate.
Yeah.
Basically, 6 degrees of affiliate.
Yeah.
We only have a little bit of time left, so I'm going to ask you this. What does the next couple of years look like for you and Metamovers?
It looks like development. It looks like just continuing to build. We have to continue to build community. We have to continue to do partnerships with projects, partnerships with real world asset projects, partnerships with metaverses, and in doing so, we've got to just continue to do what we're really good at, is market these projects and help educate people on what's out there and what's available to them and what they can do. So the next couple of years for us, it looks like partnerships. It looks like strategic relationships with companies like Otherverse. It looks like development and just continuing to invest in growth and play the long game. I don't think, based on my current experience, like I'm not, this thing isn't blowing up overnight unless something changes. And so it's just continuing to play the long game, continuing to build, continuing to develop, continue to grow community, and do so in a way where you're solving problems based off the desires of the people that we're actually, marketing to and working with. And so that's what the next couple of years looks like.
Fantastic. So how can people check it out, check out Metamovers, find you, get a hold of you?
Yeah, right now we are all invested in growing our own community and just continuing to develop. So follow us on Twitter at Making Meta Moves. Join our Telegram thread at Making Meta Moves. We would love to continue to engage with people and ask and answer questions and work together synergistically and develop partnerships, relationships. So those would be the best ways. At Making Meta Moves on Twitter, hit us up. I answer all the DMs personally. I'm crazy. I know. There's a lot. I have a lot going on. I probably shouldn't do that, but I love getting to connect with people and collaborate. So that would be the best way. Follow us on Twitter at Making Meta Moves and join our community.
So I dropped that into the chat. I dropped it into the YouTube chat. If you want to drop the other stuff into the chat here in Zoom, I can make sure it gets over to YouTube. I have actually one other question that came in. I wonder if this is for you. So I'm just going to ask it really quick since we do have a couple more minutes. The question is really quick. Any chance of moving from Tether into USDC? Is that for you? Does that make any sense to you?
Nope, that doesn't make any sense.
That's not for you. Okay.
I don't know if that's for me.
I thought that was for you. So that was at the bottom. I was like, oh, maybe they know something that I don't know. But
yeah, that's different chains.
Different chain. But yeah, if you drop all that stuff in, I'll make sure that our audience gets all that information. Grant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Yep.
That was incredible, highly educational, and everybody really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
I look forward to seeing you in Otherverse.
See you.
Take care. Take care. Stay tuned, guys. Coming up next at 1 p.m. is Creating Financial Freedom Through Blockchain with Brad Vernell right here on this channel. So stay tuned, and thank you everybody for hanging in there at the 8th Annual Virtual Con.